Hello student, I am Professor Smita Jha from the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, and I am here to discuss research methodology. In my initial lecture, I described what actually research methodology is, because research methodology is the process defining the systematic exploration of a particular topic. Now, this is the high time to know about research paradigm, the various paradigms while pursuing a research. Now, what is research paradigm? That is again a very important, significant question. So, a research paradigm is a set of assumptions. Assumption means, the base of thinking that guide how research is conducted, including the methods used and the interpretation of results. It's a framework that shapes a researcher's worldview and how they think about reality and knowledge. Because I must tell you that research cannot be random. Research is a very systematic exploration of a particular topic. So, again, what is a research paradigm? A research paradigm is a method, model, or pattern for conducting research. It is a set of ideas, beliefs, that is the rationale, or understandings within which theories and practices can function. The majority of paradigms derive from one of two research methodologies, that is positivism or interpretatism. These two, like positivism and interpretatism, these are the school of thought. So most of the paradigms derived from these two school of thought. So three important paradigms, though there are other also: the basic paradigms, ontology, epistemology, and research methodology. So as I said, that research paradigm is a set of belief. Now, belief rational set on ontology, epistemology, and research methodology. So, paradigms are a branch of philosophy that help researchers understand how knowledge is acquired, used, and believed. They help researchers determine how to approach their research and how to validate their findings. It is a scientific process, scientific in the sense even in humanity, because the whole process is objective, not subjective. So it is a kind of framework that guides researchers' approach to a study based on assumptions about reality, knowledge, methodology. Now, paradigms influence the entire research process from beginning to end, from the research question to the analysis of findings, that is the conclusion. Now, what do paradigms include? Assumptions, because some kind of base is required. So, a paradigm is based on assumptions about reality, knowledge, and methodology. Now, epistemology, that is one of the very important paradigms that includes assumptions about knowledge, such as how knowledge is acquired and what its limits are. And then ontology, which includes assumptions about reality. And very important, that is methodology. A paradigm includes assumptions about how to conduct research. So these three are very, very important aspects, parameters, paradigm when we talk of research methodology. So how do paradigms influence research? This is also very, very important question. Paradigms shape how researchers formulate research questions. Paradigms shape how researchers select methods and instruments. Paradigms shape how researchers collect, analyze, and present data. And paradigms shape how researchers interpret findings. So, as I said, that the whole process is very systematic and analytical. So, these paradigms define assumptions in this way. Other schools of thought, like positivist, an objective paradigm that uses quantitative methods. Interpretivist, a subjective paradigm that uses qualitative methods. Constructivist, a subjective paradigm that uses qualitative methods, while pragmatist, a mixed methods paradigm. Critical theory thought, a paradigm that challenges the status quo. These are the school of thought giving a shape to, support to all these paradigms. Research paradigms refer to the beliefs and assumptions that provide the structure for your research. Because when you are going to pursue the research, it is not with your vacant mind. There should be some kind of base, some kind of rational belief. So these can be characteristics of your discipline or even your personal beliefs. For example, if you are a physical scientist and you are conducting research on the performance of a newly developed catalyst for removing chemical impurities from drinking water, your study is probably based on the premise that there is one reality, and your result will show that the new product either works better or it doesn't. Coming to the ontology, which is very important, answering the question, what is reality? If something is real, that is knowledge, that is epistemology, then what is that real about? What is the reality? That is, does a single reality exist within your research? An example of an ontological question would be, does God exist? There are two possible realities or ontologies in response to this question: yes, God exists, or no, God does not exist. Ontology concerns claims about the nature of being and existence. One of the longest standing ontological questions in philosophy concern the existence or otherwise of God, or at least some sense of a higher being. This has provided a springboard for philosophers to question, among other things, the purpose of existence, the nature of a priori reasoning, the meaning of sensory experience, and what constitutes valid argument. In the more down to earth world of social research, thinking about ontology refers to beliefs about the fundamental nature of reality, in particular social reality. Now, these beliefs are often discussed in terms of dichotomy between, on one hand, an objective reality which exists independent of the observer, and on the other, reality as it appears subjectively, or more commonly as negotiated within groups. The former typically comes under the banner of objectivist, realist, or foundationalist ontology. The latter, an anti-positivist or anti-foundationalist ontology informed by constructivism or interpretativism. The anti-positivist position are experienced more widely held among those interested in social theory, but this generalization does not necessarily hold across all countries, disciplines, and indeed across time. So, ontology seems very abstract as an idea, but questions of ontology are central to the questions asked in social research, to the concepts we use, and the steps taken. For example, the positivist may ask cause and effect type questions. Say, how does class background affect educational attainment? While the anti-positivist may rehearse this question to ask what different meanings have been ascribed to concepts of class and attainment, and what type of explanation has been put forward to argue that class influences educational attainment. Ontology, therefore, sits at the top of a hierarchy under which epistemology, methodology, and methods all get into line. Epistemology, the paradigm, one of the very important paradigm, the philosophical study of the nature, origin, and limits of human knowledge. The term is derived from the Greek episteme, which means knowledge, and logos, which means reason. And accordingly, the field is sometimes referred to as the theory of knowledge. Epistemology has a long history within Western philosophy, beginning with the ancient Greeks and continuing to the present. Along with metaphysics, logic, and ethics, it is one of the four main branches of philosophy, and nearly every great philosopher has contributed to it. So, epistemology has a history as long as philosophy, and in many ways is the foundation of both scientific and philosophical knowledge. Epistemological questions include: what is knowledge? Research is knowledge. That is the exploration of knowledge, argument and the counter argument of the knowledge, existing knowledge. How can we claim to know anything at all? What does it mean to know something? What makes a belief justified? What is the relationship between the knower and what can be known? While the philosophical dimensions can be abstract and generalized. Thinking about these kinds of questions in the context of research makes them more targeted because it enables you to align specific methods against specific questions more appropriately. So, epistemology is closely connected to method as they are both concerned with knowledge creation and validation that is broadly constructed. Research methods can be thought of as essentially a stripped down, purpose specific epistemologies. Research attempts to add to knowledge. However, it's important to note that methods and epistemologies are accompanied by ontological and often axiomatic commitments. One key consideration here is the status of truth within a particular epistemology or research method, because research should be authentic, valid. If, for instance, some approaches emphasize subjective knowledge and deny the possibility of an objective truth, what does this mean for choosing a research method? Because research methods and methodology almost the backbone of a good research. Research methods are essentially epistemologies. By following a certain process, we support our claim to know about the things we have been researching. Inappropriate or poorly followed methods can undermine claims to have produced new knowledge or discovered a new truth. This can have implications for future studies that build on the data and or conceptual framework used. Methodology in research is defined as the systematic method to resolve a research problem through data gathering, using various techniques, providing an interpretation of data gathered, and drawing conclusions about the research data. Essentially, a research methodology is the blueprint of a research or a study. As such, the methodology in research proposal is of utmost importance. Research methodology is a structured and scientific approach used to collect, analyze, and interpret quantitative or qualitative data, resources, material to answer research questions or test hypotheses. A research methodology is like a plan for carrying out research and helps keep researchers on track by limiting the scope of the research. Several aspects must be considered before selecting an appropriate research methodology, such as research limitations and ethical concern that may affect your research. Now, why is research methodology so important? As I said, that it is like backbone. Having a good research methodology in place has the following advantages. Other researchers who may want to replicate or follow your research The explanations will be of benefit to them. One can easily answer any questions about one's research if they arise at a later stage. A research methodology provides a framework and guidelines for researchers to clearly define research questions, hypotheses, and objectives. Because in research, finding out research, it is the gap between the research, the whole process is intertextual. And it is the gap on which your hypothesis, assumption, builds. And you can develop on that gap. So it helps researchers identify the most appropriate research design, sampling technique, and data collection and analysis methods. A sound research methodology helps researchers ensure that their findings are valid and reliable and free from biases and errors. It also helps ensure that ethical guidelines are followed while conducting research. That is very important, the ethical part. So, a good research methodology helps researchers in planning their research efficiently by ensuring optimum uses of their time and resources. Now, it is very important here at this moment to know about methodology and method. There is a difference between methodology and method. The confusion between methodology and methods in research is a common occurrence, especially with the terms sometimes being used interchangeably. Methods and methodology in the context of research refer to two related but different things. Method is the technique used in gathering evidence, while methodology, on the other hand, is the underlying theory and analysis of how a research does or should proceed. Similarly, methodology as a set of principles and ideas that inform the design of a research study. Meanwhile, methods are practical procedures used to generate and analyze data resources. So, methodological approach or methods used in research should be known as that you know what is methodology in research. The next step is to identify the different methods used in research. Traditionally, researchers often approach research studies using the methodology research institution typically use, which are two distinct paradigms, namely positivistic and phenomenological. That is very your own point of view. Also sometimes called qualitative and quantitative, positivistic and phenomenological approaches play a significant role in determining your data gathering process, means collecting your material, especially the methods you are going to use in your research. It is also worth noting that when it comes to primary versus secondary research methods, there are significant differences that you need to consider as a researcher. In research, there are two fundamental methods used for either approach, that is qualitative and quantitative research methods. Even if you take the path of a philosophy career, these are still methods that you may encounter and even use. So, research methodology plays a crucial role in the academic and professional fields, providing a structured processes to gather, analyze, and interpret data or material. This methodology is foundational for developing accurate, reliable, and valid conclusions, especially in a diverse country like India, where multiple disciplines and industries apply it rigorously. As we explore the various facets of research methodology, we will delve into its definition, types, processes, objective, and scope, because theoretical framework and research methodology, these two are very, very important along with the research paradigm. Well, all these sections, when you tailor your research, all this section is tailored to offer insight and in-depth understanding, equipping scholars and professionals with the tool needed to conduct thorough research. So research methodology refers to the systematic, theoretical analysis of the methods applied to a field. It comprises the theoretical analysis of the methods and principles associated with a branch of knowledge. It implies the application of various techniques and methods to gather empirical data and significant information at a broader level. The methodology not only helps researchers gather data or resources effectively, but also helps them make logical conclusions through qualitative and quantitative research techniques. Understanding the fundamental nature of research methodology is essential for scholars to design, process, and evaluate their studies effectively. Research methodology refers to the practical how of a research study. More specifically, it's about how a research systematically designs a study to ensure valid and reliable results that address the research aims, objective research questions, specifically how the researcher went about deciding what type of resource, data, material to collect, qualitative or quantitative data, what to collect it from, that is the sampling strategy, how to collect, that is the data collection method, how to analyze it, the data analysis method. The overall process is called literature review, on which I will also, give a talk, because literature review is also very, very important. So importantly, a good methodology process explains not just what methodological choices were made, but also why they were made. In other words, the methodology chapter should justify the design choices by showing that the chosen methods and techniques are the best fit for the research aims, objective, and research question. As we mentioned, research methodology refers to the collection of practical decisions. The entire process is very, very practical, pragmatic, because it based on the truth. So the decisions regarding what resources you will collect, from whom, how you will collect it, and how you will analyze it. Research design, on the other hand, is more about the overall strategy you will adopt in your study. For example, whether you will use an experimental design in which you manipulate one variable while controlling other. In a thesis, dissertation, academic journal article, or other formal pieces of research, there are often details of how the researcher approached the study and the methods and techniques used. If you are designing a research study, then it may be helpful to understand what research methodology is and the selection of techniques and tools available to you. Research methodology is a way of explaining how a researcher intends to carry out their research. It is a logical, systematic plan to resolve a research problem. A methodology details a researcher's approach to the research to ensure reliable, valid results that address their aims and objectives. It encompasses what data they are going to collect and where from, as well as how it's being collected and analyzed. Now, different types of research methodology. When designing a research methodology, a researcher has several decisions to make. One of the most important is which data methodology to use, qualitative, quantitative, or combination of the two, which is called mixed type. Mostly it is qualitative, that is being used by the humanities student. Even, in humanities, the part of linguistic study, quantitative can be used, sometimes both qualitative and quantitative. No matter the type of research, the data gathered will be as numbers or descriptions, and researchers can choose to focus on collecting words, numbers, or both. Now, research methodologies can be broadly classified into several types depending on the nature of the research and the methodology applied. We may explore the primary methodologies used in academic and practical research scenario, and as we discussed and explained again and again, qualitative research. Now, this type involves non-numeric data collection and analysis methods. Techniques such as interviews, focus groups, ethnographic research fall under qualitative research, textual analysis, which emphasizes understanding the phenomenon through depth over breadth. Quantitative, this can be the part of humanities, also linguistic and scientific part. Unlike qualitative research, quantitative research involves numerical data. It uses statistical, mathematical, or computational techniques to analyze data. Its main goal is to determine patterns and averages, make predictions, test causal relationships, and generalize results to wider populations. Mixed method research, as we discussed already, combination of both qualitative and quantitative, and the rationale is to benefit from the strengths of both methods while neutralizing their weaknesses, thus providing a more comprehensive analysis of the research topic. Descriptive research, often considered a preliminary research phase, this method describes the characteristics of a population or phenomenon being studied. It does not answer questions about how, when, why the characteristics occurred, which are left for further research. Experimental research, this method is used to establish cause and effect relationship between variables. It involves control tests and experiments that manipulate one variable's independent variables, means counter argument, argument, counter argument, to see the effect on another variable, that is dependent variable. Correlation research, unlike experimental research, studies the relationship between two or more variables without attribute causation. This method is used to find trends or patterns. Longitudinal research involves repeated observation of the same variables over a long period. Psychology, sociology, and medicine often use it to study long-term trends and effect. Cross-sectional research studies a particular phenomenon or elements of it at a single point in time. This snapshot provides insight into the variables at the specific point. And then comes action research, which is designed to effect direct changes. Action research involves iterative cycles of planning, acting, observing, and reflecting to improve practices and method. Now, see, since we are in an age of interdisciplinarity, so we should know about all such research methods or methodology. So, how is quantitative analysis different from qualitative analysis? Qualitative and quantitative analysis represent different methods of data collection, identification, and processing. And the main defining factor between them is what they seek to determine. Quantitative analysis explains what happened, while qualitative explains why events occur. Quantitative research methodology is objective and is often quicker as researchers use software programs when analyzing the data. An example of how researchers could use a quantitative methodology is to measure the relationship between two variables or test a set of hypotheses. Conceptual differences refer to what a specific type of analysis does. Now, there are some conceptual differences between quantitative analysis and qualitative analysis. So, quantitative data analysis focuses on facts. Quantitative data analysis assumes reality is measurable. Qualitative data analysis seeks to understand the reason for a behavior. Qualitative data analysis assumes reality is always changing and includes several variables that are hard to measure with number. Now, functional differences. This is also very important to know. Functional differences are differences in methodology. Here are some functional differences between qualitative and quantitative. That quantitative collects data through measurement, and quantitative analysis predicts outcomes using values and a statistical method. So, quantitative analysis reports data in statistical values, that is, mathematical. Qualitative research collects data through observation and interview technique, like mostly textual analysis. Qualitative analysis predicts outcome using information collected in interview and surveys through questionnaire also. Qualitative analysis reports data by conveying information using language and description. Now, mixed method, this contemporary research methodology combines quantitative and qualitative approaches to provide additional perspective, create a richer picture, and present multiple findings. The quantitative methodology provides definitive facts and figures, while the qualitative provides the human aspects. This methodology can produce interesting result as it presents exact data while also being exploratory. A contemporary method is sprung from the combination of traditional quantitative and qualitative approaches. The existence of the mixed methods approach stemmed from its potential to help researchers view social relations and their intricacies clearer by fusing together the quantitative and qualitative methods of research while recognizing the limitations of both at the same time. Although there are many ways to collect data, people often broadly group them in these ways, like interviews. Researchers can carry out interviews in a structured, semi-structured, or unstructured format, depending on how formal the questions are. Surveys can be online or in person, can have either free answer, essay style questions, or closed multiple choice style questions. Depending on the data required, a survey could also use a mixture. Now, focus groups, when we talk of survey or interview, have interviewees give their thoughts, opinion, perspective, and perceptions on a specific topic. Because in humanities, interview is very popular. A moderator usually leads the group to help guide the discussion and ensure everyone has a chance to share their thoughts. And then observations. So, direct observation involves observing the spontaneous behavior of participants without interference from the researcher, while participants' observation is more structured. And the researcher interacts with the participants. Now, documents and record, that is another important part of both qualitative and quantitative. So, researchers collect data such as published reports, periodicals, office documents of international bodies, government agencies, or private institutes, and internal records such as employees' payroll, raw material quantities, and cash receipt, if it is empirical. Having a sound research methodology in place provides the following benefits. Other researchers who want to follow your research, they can do it, and researchers who receive criticism can refer to the methodology and explain their approach. It can help provide researcher with a specific plan to follow throughout their research. Also, methodology design process help researcher select the correct method for the objective, and this is very important. To bring out a good research, it is very important to select a right kind of method. It allows researchers to document what they intend to achieve with the research from the outset. What are the six basic research methods? That is very important to know because we all discuss methodology. So the 6 research methods tool for collecting informations are social surveys, interviews, experiments, ethnographic, longitudinal studies, participants, observation. Now, objectives of research methodology. It is very, very important and multifold. to provide a clear framework, because as I said, theoretical framework is very important after research methodology. So one of the primary objectives is to provide a systematic framework that guides the entire research process from start to finish. This ensures that the study remains on track and is conducted systematically. To ensure accuracy by adhering to a structured methodology, researcher can minimize biases and errors, thus enhancing the accuracy of the result, means outcome. To enhance reliability, employing standardized methods enhances the reliability of the research findings, allowing others to replicate the study under similar conditions. Now, to facilitate peer review, because it should be, reviewed by pioneer in that field, the peer. So a well-defined methodology allows peers to evaluate the research for its validity and reliability, which is crucial for its acceptance and credibility. So employee a standardized method, enhances the reliability of the research, allowing others to follow, replicate the study under similar situation or condition. Now, here I wrap up this discussion, that is the paradigms of research. And during the discussion, we discussed that besides other school of thought, there are basically three important paradigms: ontology, epistemology, and research methodology. As far as the school of thought concerned, it is positivism, anti-positivism, empiricism, pragmaticism, phenomenological aspect, and constructivism aspect. Now, this is the high time to discuss different aspects of research paradigm, and in the next lecture, I'm going to explain different aspects of research paradigm. Till then, thank you. See you.